Hey guys, I know it's been a minute. I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to take some time away from the type of videos and stuff that I normally make here on my YouTube channel to address a topic, a subject, an issue that had been brought to my attention for a while. I had been kind of wanting to share something about it. I did share something on my Tumblr blog about it, but with the recent release of the show Atlanta's season premiere, it's been kind of brought back to my attention and also like kind of brought back to the surface of people's conscience, because the first episode is based heavily on this story. Shout out to Lovely TTV and also the YouTuber FD Signifier, who also highlights this story in his YouTube video titled Will Smith and the Struggle with Black Boyhood. So I had heard from quite a few people that the episode of Atlanta titled Three Slaps was very, very good. I had heard from friends, relatives. I was reading on online message boards. It seemed like everywhere you turned, YouTubers were doing reaction videos to it. And I hadn't heard so much buzz about the series premiere of a show since Euphoria, I believe. And before Euphoria, it had been even longer than that. I'm not even into TV that much. But anyway, so finally, after reading an article about it by The Insider, which I'll also link below, I decided to give it a watch. Atlanta is actually one of those shows I've been meaning to watch that I just keep kind of putting off and putting on the back burner. And I'm like, okay, this would be a great way to get into it. I'll watch this episode and I'll go back and I'll start and rewatch the rest of the season. So, spoiler alert, first of all, if you haven't seen the episode, you might want to go and watch that first before finishing this video, if you plan on seeing it. If not, basically, I'll just let you know that Atlanta had been on a hiatus for, I believe, 4 years, according to the Insider article, due to the pandemic and other things. And so I guess they were trying to creatively kind of segue back into the world of these people. And even though this video or this episode rather is based loosely on a true story, it winds up just being a dream that the main character is having. But I'm very, very thankful to the producers and writers and directors and actors and everything of Atlanta for bringing this story to the forefront, because it's a story that I don't want to see disappear or die, and I don't want these children to be forgotten about. Again, shout out to FD Signifier for reminding me about this story. It really, really impacted me a lot. And shout out to him for calling Devonte by his real last name, Devonte Jordan. You may know him better as Devonte Hart. He was the foster child of a couple. I believe their names were Sarah and Jennifer. And a picture of him hugging a police officer went viral at the height of the kind of like Black Lives Matter kind of protesting against police brutality movement. Very, very profound picture of him hugging a police officer. There's also a notorious picture of him holding a sign that says free hugs. Now, a lot of people have seen this image, and a lot of people don't know the true story behind this image. They think they know the story, but it winds up being even more complicated and confusing and revealing and shocking than most people even think. You see, his foster mother, again, I believe her name is Jennifer. I have to go back and re-reference. And I believe you can also still catch this documentary on Discovery Plus. which is where I initially watched it, and I believe you can also currently stream it on Hulu as well. This story, there's so many heartbreaking aspects to it. The first of all, the subject, the overall tragedy of it is that these children slept through the cracks. They slipped through the cracks. They had numerous wellness checks from Department of Children and Services in multiple cities. The parents were found to be not only neglectful, but physically and verbally abusive, starving the children, and all these horrible things. And I'm sure you're asking yourself, well, how is it that they were able to stay and maintain in this household? Why weren't these children, unquote, rescued? And that's the quandary. It seems like there were people who did the right thing. They did everything they were supposed to do. There were teachers who observed bruises, who reported it. There were neighbors who called Children and Services, and most devastatingly, the neighbors who actually had two of the children run to their house in the middle of the night, exclaiming that they were hungry, they were starving, and begging for food. They actually felt guilt after reporting them, because shortly after they reported them, the parents, Jennifer and Sarah, to Children and Services, is when that tragedy happened. And I want to talk a little bit about Jennifer especially. People say, and this is from especially interviews from the Discovery Plus documentary titled Broken Harts, her coworkers, her friends, they don't really interview that many close family members, but people from the community. She was very active in her community and very, very especially active on social media. They say that she seemed to be the perfect person with the perfect life. If you looked at her Facebook, you would see all these pictures of her out volunteering and taking her children to different activities and events and organizations and going to things like rallies and marches. And she just seemed very, very woke and passionate and tapped in. However, upon looking closer to her social media, and in hindsight, of course, hindsight is always 20/20, you realize that she was one of those people who was just really, really hell-bent on making her life seem like something it was not. She was all about the facade. She's probably one of the worst examples and worst case scenarios of people being fake on social media and completely different in social media than they are in real life. Quite possibly the worst example. From her posts, you would assume that she was a caring, attentive mother, that she genuinely cared about these children, that she was kind-hearted. You know, ironically, her last name is Hart. But if you look more closely, you see that the many, many posts she did, the many pictures she took, the places that they traveled, and everything that she shared, it was more about her, more so than giving details about her children and their experiences and why she was doing what she was doing. It was more so just sharing, look at me, you know, I'm doing this good thing, I'm doing that good thing, I'm, you know, interested in helping people, all this virtue signaling. And here in real life, we find out that the children were starving. The children were being beaten. The children were being deprived sleep, forced to work long hours as if it was almost slave labor. I mean, it was very unusual and still baffling to this day. And I think no matter how much you research this story, I don't think anybody will understand all of it. It's just too complex. But the main thing I would like somebody to take away from this video is, if you have not seen the documentary Broken Harts, please do consider seeing it. And if you haven't seen the episode of Atlanta titled 3 Slaps. Please see that as well. Both are excellent, and I just don't want it to be a thing where Devonte and his siblings perish in vain. There's a drastic difference in the ending of the story in Atlanta. I don't want to give that away. If you've seen it, you already know. And I'll just say kind of it has more of like a happy ending than the actual story. But I want people to remember Devonte, because I want them to realize that there are so many other Devontes out there. And I want them to learn about what happened to him and his siblings. And I hope that we can learn something from it so that we can prevent it from happening again. And the thing that was probably most ironic of all is that photo, that infamous photo that was taken of him hugging a police officer. That police officer was actually a comrade of the police officer they were protesting against. Devonte's parents like to drag his siblings to their community events, their marches, their outreaches they would go to. It was always the spectacle. She would take, of course, dozens and dozens of photos, document, share on social media. In fact, she had actually, I believe, gone viral before the infamous photo of Devonte hugging the police officer went viral. I think she went viral 2 times, and it was almost like she was trying to milk it for herself. You rarely heard these children speak. You rarely heard their point of view, their perspective, their experience. It was always her talking for them. And it's a shame. It's devastating beyond words, unfathomable. I still can't believe it's happened. But again, I'm just making this because I feel the more people who learn about it and know and just kind of know the signs, no matter who you are, where you are, if it's a neighbor child or if you're a teacher and it's a child in one of your classes, or just, we can't let this happen again. We can't. I did a previous video kind of similar, highlighting kind of children who were being abused and neglected, and that kind of wound up being an interesting story altogether in itself. But this story, unfortunately, definitely is probably one of the most devastating accounts of child abuse in history. The fact that it went on for so long and you don't even know exactly who's to blame, because there were people who tried to do something, but ultimately just enough wasn't done. And again, just looking at that photo of Devonte hugging that police officer, just it epitomizes how for show and how fake his mother was, because she didn't even do enough research into the situation to realize that this officer was a peer and a comrade, and he was there in support of the officer they were supposedly protesting against. She was just more concerned about going out and getting this photo op and exploiting her children for her own popularity and notoriety. It's a shame. So again, just when you see people all over social media and it seems like the things that they're doing or what they're deciding to post or share too good to be true, it just might be. And it's really a shame. But amongst all the confusion and the asking, why did this happen? I just hope that people will see how we can learn from this. It's a story that people shouldn't even have to try to wrap their head around or understand. It's a story that should have never happened. But lastly, I'll just close with saying I think it's very interesting that, and again, spoiler alert for the documentary, that all of the children were found except for Devonte. Remains of both the parents, the adopted parents, remains of all the siblings except for Devonte were found. And I wonder if the writers and directors and producers of Atlanta realized this when they made the decision to end their episode the way they did. Ultimately, they never found his remains, and it's just intriguing that he, of all the children, you know, the one that kind of came to the forefront, and the one that, you know, had that beautiful smile, holding that sign saying free hugs that was etched in the minds of so many people, it would be him. And I don't know why that is, and the researchers and investigators don't either. They still wound up pronouncing him dead. But it's just very interesting. It's almost as, in a way, you kind of almost want to believe that somehow he was able to escape. I always found that very, very strange, very interesting and intriguing. But yeah, that's it for now, guys. Again, if you can, watch the episode. I believe it's their season 3 premiere of Atlanta. Episode is titled 3 Slaps, and the documentary is titled Broken Harts, Discovery Plus and Hulu. And also check out FD Signifier's video as well. He excellently kind of correlates that story into things that have been happening recently to some very well-known Zilla Rudies we know. So on that note, guys, just take care, and I will talk to you later. Bye.